Hello everyone, welcome to Nibble Pop. Today in this class, we are going to look at some very important words and try to understand their origins and etymologies. In your philology syllabus, you often have these words which have connection with Indian English, and it is very interesting to see how these words came into the vocabulary of English. The words which we are going to discuss today are Guru, Lathi charge, tiffin box, military hotel, 420, communal, out of station, batchmate, and matchbox. Without wasting any more time, let's just begin the class. You are all familiar with the word Guru if you are a student in India. The word Guru has a Sanskrit origin. It comes from the Sanskrit word Guru, which means teacher, master, or an honorable person. In a way, this word Guru, it means something which has weight, something weighty, and grave. Now you can connect this grave to Latin gravis. So it is also interesting that in terms of meaning, the word guru and the word gravis are connected and they sound similar too. During and after the colonial influence, what happened, words such as guru, they started to be adopted into the English vocabulary. And the word guru, which means teacher, priest, one to be honored, it was adopted in English in 1806. But a generalized sense of expert in something was first recorded in 1966, and I'll give you the exact place where. It was recorded in Canadian English in reference to Marshall McLuhan. It is an example of a loan word, because if you have seen my discussion on loan words, you would understand that loan words are those words which are taken from another language into a language. So in this case, since the word is taken from Sanskrit and in some way Hindi too, therefore this word, which is now a part of English vocabulary, is a loan word. Our next word is Lathi charge. The word Lathi in Hindi means a bamboo stick. It's like a baton. Now, usually batons are used by policemen to scatter away angry, violent crowds of people or mobs. The word baton charge was very much in use. Now, because of this British rule in India, it was very natural for the rulers of India to use the expression Lathi charge in place of baton charge, because that would make more sense to the people whom they were ruling. Lathi charge is an example of a hybrid, because the word Lathi, it belongs to the native vocabulary, the Indian vocabulary, whereas charge is an English word. Therefore, when these two are combined, they are forming a hybrid. Now, I'll speak a little bit about the origin of the word charge also, because it did not come to the English vocabulary out of nothing. It also has a root. So let's just discuss that. The word charge in Middle English, it comes from Old French charger, which was a verb, and charge, which was a noun. And this word in Middle English, this particularly meant to load or a load. Now this Old French origin or original word, now that came from late Latin caricere. I'll give you the spelling alongside, or you can say carcere, which also means to load, and from Latin carus, which means a wheeled vehicle. Interestingly, carus is again related to what we call cars today. Okay, so everything is linked here. Strangely, this word charge is therefore related to the word which now is the source of the word cars. Anyway, so Lathi charge therefore is a hybrid of an Indian word lathi, which replaces the word baton in baton charge, and therefore this expression is found in Indian English. Our next word is a very familiar word, and you would be surprised to know that this word does not exist anywhere outside Southeast Asia. This word is tiffin box. If you go to Australia and ask for a tiffin box in a shop, they wouldn't understand what you are asking for. This tiffin box is a very local word, you can say. And how did this word come up? Now first we will look at the first part of this compound, that is tiffin. In Merriam-Webster dictionary, the word tiffin is described as a light midday meal. The word was first used around 1800 and is believed to have descended from obsolete English word tiff. Tiff meant to eat between meals. Now, why did this word come up? Because during the colonial rule, when the British government was ruling over India, when the East India Company rather was ruling over India, then the officials, the British officials, they did not take their dinner time and the supper times were a bit different from their homeland, because the Indian climate did not suit their way of eating food or their time of eating food. So they had to take some snacks in between, and they, kind of postponed their supper a little bit more because they couldn't go to sleep in the mid-evening. So from there, they started to use the expression tiffin, while the expression lunchbox was in common English usage. So if you go to Australia, Spain, any other country in the world and ask for a lunchbox, you get what you call a tiffin box. So this expression lunchbox was already there. The word tiffin box started to be used as an Indian English counterpart. So we can also call this a hybrid, because the tiffin part of this expression tiffin box is it's a non-standardized word. You can say it's not in standard English. It is a part of Indian English vocabulary. So this is the origin of the word tiffin box. Military hotel is our next word. During the early post-independence period, right after the British rule was over in and around 1960s, I'm now talking about something that was happening in South India. Now, usually South Indian restaurants or eateries, they served two kinds of foods. One class of eateries or restaurants, they served vegetarian food, and the other part served non-vegetarian food. The people who went and ate at the vegetarian restaurants were Hindus, while in case of non-vegetarian serving restaurants, the cooks and the serving people, they did not belong to the Hindu community. Now we all know how rigid Hindu people are, when it comes to food habits and untouchability, especially in context of post-independent India. Now things have loosened out. Now things have changed and people have become more liberal, more logical. And these concepts of untouchability, I won't eat if a non-Hindu person is cooking, these concepts have become more or less obsolete, although they exist in many places in India even now. So let's come back to this term. So in South India, what was happening is that if a Hindu person, he wanted to have non-veg food, he did not have any option to go and eat out, because all the restaurants which served non-veg food, fish, meat, these kinds of items, they were run by, or the people who worked there as cooks and service people, waiters, they were not Hindus. And so the Hindu non-vegetarian person did not feel like going there and eating. Now to address this problem, hotels were set up, eateries were set up, where only Hindus acted as cooks. So the food was cooked and served by Hindu people, and it was non-vegetarian too. Therefore, these places became regular joints for Hindu non-vegetarian people. Alright, so why were these hotels called military hotels? Now it was believed, it was the general perception that the people serving in the army, in the navy, in short, in the armed forces, they had to eat like non-veg food. This was the general perception. And therefore, these hotels were primarily set up to cater to the soldiers who were on leave. You know, they were not on duty, they were back home, so they wanted to eat out. And since they were habituated with non-veg food, so these hotels served them and ex-servicemen, so retired people who served in the army in their days. So these hotels came to be known as military hotel, although any person could go and eat there. It was not run by ex-servicemen, although in some cases they were run by ex-servicemen. This was their like next job when they left the army or the navy. But usually this was open to all. But the fact that the army people, they were perceived to be non-vegetarian people, Hindu people, so for them these hotels were set up. So this is the root of the expression military hotel. Now we will come to a very interesting word, rather not a word, a number. This is 420. This is known as 420 or more popularly 420. We all know the meaning of 420. We all know the meaning of 420. If we are from India, it means a trickster, a fraud, somebody who cheats another person. But why is a number assigned such a horrible meaning? I mean, what's wrong with 4 and 2 and 0? They are regular numbers. This has a very interesting history. The Indian Penal Code, which the British government had set up when they started ruling India in around 1860, they had many sections. You know, section 1 dealt with these kinds of crimes, section 2 dealt with that types of crimes. So that was the Indian Penal Code. In that Indian Penal Code, which we also call the IPC, the section which was numbered as 420, it specifically dealt with crimes or offences relating to cheating and dishonestly inducing delivery of property. Even after the independence, the countries, India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, they framed their penal codes based on these, original penal codes of India. And consequently what happened? These section numbers remained same. And therefore, even now in modern India's IPC, section 420 deals specifically with these types of crimes. And therefore, this word is now used in a more generalized manner to mean anybody who offends another person by cheating or by being a fraud person. And we call a trickster or a fraud person as a 420 or 420. There are even movies. So these are very common expressions, and it is very strange how these words have actually evolved. Now we will come to a very important word. The word is communal. A word which has one set of meaning in the rest of the world and another set of meaning in India. It's like an evolution in meaning has happened with this word. The word communal originates from late Latin communalis and French communal. Old French, the spelling had one M. French common or commune meant general, common, open, public. So these were the normal meanings of this word. This process involves, in which this word communal comes, this process involves revival of an obsolete Middle English adjective. There was a word in Middle English, we don't know about it now, but it's obsolete now. The meaning was the same, common, unanimous. This was late 15th century. In context of India, whenever the word communal is used, it is interpreted as related to different religious groups. Now, normally when you use the expression communal, it refers to a particular community. It can be any kind of community, the black community, the gay community, the Australian Aboriginal community. It can mean any kind of group where the people or the members have some common ground, something common. But in India, the word communal is used only in context of religion. The media in India have narrowed down the meaning of the word communal and community to avoid naming religious groups. For example, whenever they use the word communal violence, they avoid using the word Hindu violence, Muslim violence, Christian violence, because they do not want to antagonize any particular religious sentiment or any particular religious group of people. So they use a general term communal, but they mean specific religious communities which they do not actually mention. So this is what you can say an example of adaptation, where a word's meaning evolves and changes over time. The next expression which we are going to use is a very regular expression. We use it all the time, but we do not realize that this expression is not there outside India or outside Southeast Asia. And the expression is out of station. You will be surprised because we use this expression all the time. We all the time say that I am out of station, call me later, or the boss is out of station, so the interview was postponed. So all this usage of you're out of station, this is erroneous. This is wrong actually. You need to say out of town. Out of station is an obsolete expression. Now I'm going to give you the origin. The word station originates from Old Latin statio during Middle English via Old French. Now this word statio, you can understand that it means something which is stationary, which is not moving. All right. Early use generally referred to position or status or a holy place of pilgrimage. So station in life, he is on a high station in life. That was the usual usage in the Middle English, or it referred to holy places of pilgrimage, maybe Canterbury or such places where, you associated the word station with something very honorable, something very prestigious. Now, it means, because of its usage in context with railways, we know that a station means a place where a train stops, halts. Now, the phrase out of station actually means out of town, as I have said. It has its origins in the posting of army officers to particular station during the colonial rule of East India Company. So, when the East India Company, the British rulers, they were ruling India, then they used to, send in officers from home, and then they were allotted certain stations. They were in charge of certain places, but sometimes because of their work, they had to go away from their allotted stations, and then it was said that the person is out of station. The term is still used in Southeast Asia, that is India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia, so all these places, Myanmar, to refer to working in a place where one does not live. Which means if I am a Bengali, if my homeland or hometown is Calcutta and I am posted in Delhi, then I am like out of station. Or maybe I am posted in Calcutta, but I am working for some time in another town, then I am out of station. Like that expression is used, alright? But this out of station is limited to the borders of the country, which means you are working in a place away from your residence or away from your own place, but is not outside the country. So then you are out of station. That is the usage in Indian English. The next word which we will take up is batchmate, very close to classmate, but classmate is a very standard English expression, whereas batchmate is not. When we come to think of it, the word batch, it is used to denote non-human things, batch of medicines, batch of files. Therefore, when you use the expression batchmate, you are actually using this expression in context of human beings. Who are batchmates? Batchmates are people who study with you or who have been with you in your school, your college, your university, or any place of training. They have been with you in the same batch, in the same year. So they are your batchmates. The word mate, it has a West Germanic origin and it comes from German, and the meaning is comrade, friend, companion, you can say. Batchmate is an example of adaptation in the same way that we have in case of communal. So the sense shifting is there. So this is also an example of a very unique word, a very special word, which is there in Indian English. Now we'll come to the last word of the day, which is matchbox. First, let me give you the etymology or the origin of the word match. Very interesting. The word match originates from Old English word that means mate, friend, companion. In late Middle English, the sense wick of a candle means the part of a candle where you light it, that part, the thready part of the candle, that expression or that meaning started to develop. The Old French equivalent was meche, M-E-C-H-E, and probably it was connected to Old Latin myxa, M-Y-X-A, which meant lamp wick. So wick is that thread which runs through the candle, alright, or the lamp. Later, in British English, matchbox as a word started to be used. Now, interestingly, in British English, in standard British English, the word matchbox means the empty box without its matches. When you use the expression a box of matches, then it means that the box is filled or there are matchsticks inside the box. But when you use the expression matchbox, it only means the box. But in Indian English, this difference is not clear because the expression box of matches is not used by any Indians. They always invariably use the expression matchbox. For an empty matchbox, they use matchbox. For a filled matchbox, they use matchbox. Therefore, the meaning is more ambiguous in case of Indian English. Now that we have gone through this list of interesting Indian words or expressions which are often not found outside Southeast Asia, we get to understand that the philological knowledge that we gain from this is the fact that when two cultures come in close contact with each other, they somehow diffuse into each other. So why is this important for us to study the origin of these words? Because we will realize then that language was never a barrier of communication when two cultures came in close contact with each other. Economically, it was the British rule, so Indians were ruled, but linguistically, it was an exchange. So that was somehow a consolation which philological understanding gives us, that there was in some way a double flow, where vocabulary of both the cultures got enriched. So I hope you have understood today's class, and for your convenience, I will give you a written note on all these words along with this video in the description box, and I'll try to give it in the form of a PDF or a link. Go through those notes and I'm sure you will have no problem in understanding the unique origins of these special words. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet so that you can get notified every time I post a new video. Best of luck for your upcoming exams. I'm sure you're going to be very, very successful. Have a great time. Bye-bye.